Hi guys, morning. All right. My name is Freo. A little bit about me. I used to live here in Singapore about 10 years ago. So I was in finance. I was working for Merrill Lynch and HSBC before transitioning and getting serious in games. So I suppose some of you may have already played a game at some point in your life, whether that's a mobile game, that's a PC game, or that's a browser game. And today I'm here to talk about how we can utilize the blockchain and fusion it with gaming. So a little bit about me. I'm currently the CEO of Alto.io. It's a decentralized platform that allows game developers to put their games on the blockchain. And I'll explain that further in a little bit. Prior to that, I was working for a company called R2 Games, which is a mobile game publisher that's based in China. We were taking free-to-play games from China and publishing it worldwide, globally. Previously, I was in finance until I decided to get serious in gaming. Who among you here recognizes what I have in the background right here? Perfect. All right, World of Warcraft. For those who doesn't know, World of Warcraft is a multiplayer online game wherein you assume a form of an avatar. You can dress yourself up however you want to. You can purchase items. You can purchase anything within the game ecosystem of World of Warcraft that makes you stronger, that makes your aesthetic look pleasing or beautiful, however you want it to look like. So World of Warcraft, I would say, is one of the very first things that I've played as a child. Back in 2000, well, not as a child, right? As a grown person. Back in 2004, 2005, I got pretty addicted to it. I was playing it day in and day out, which I don't recommend at all. But it sort of like inspired me to look beyond what we can do right now, particularly with the emergence of blockchain technology. But World of Warcraft is where first virtual transactions started happening, virtual economies started happening. People are buying and selling stuff within the ecosystem. People are slaying monsters, finishing quests within World of Warcraft for them to earn gold. And that gold, at some point, because gamers find ways, seamlessly transition into the physical economy. So there were people who were selling gold. Not the real gold, but World of Warcraft gold. So we call them the gold miners. So what they do is they sit all day with their friends in front of a computer, try to grind as much as they can, and they do sell this gold outside of the gaming ecosystem for anybody to just buy it quickly. Because not everybody has the time in their hands to grind and to play in the game, but they still want to spend. So fast forward 2010, we sort of like uncovered different types of games. The first one we have was an arcade game, and I hope that everybody at some point here played an arcade game in their life. This is where you buy a token, you put it in, commence a fight, and then you die and like buy another life. A premium game is when it's a boxed kind of game where it's already pre-made. So what you need to do is you just buy it at a price, you take it home with you, and you play it however long you want to play it. And in China, we have what we call a subscription model. A subscription model is where it's a time card that you can play your game for a month, for 2 months, until your time card expires. And the most recent addition, back in 2010 or early 2009, was free-to-play game. So free-to-play game is what you commonly see right now on your mobile phones, for example. Your Candy Crush, your Clash of Clans, all of these are free-to-play games that you or your friends or your children may be playing, right? And this is the most common kind of game right now that's in existence. What is the status quo right now in games? I know that we are varying degrees of gamers within us, but right now games are purely centralized. So it exists from one server to another. And as a game developer, there's plenty of fees and platform cuts happening right there. Thirdly, there is a lot of monetization and regulation in place when you're making or building a game. And the last one is there's really no real item ownership for games. And I'll discuss it in a bit, but I want to let you know that the premise of this whole talk is, how do we free our items? How do we, as a player, as a gamer, when you buy an item in the game, how do you take that out of the game and put it in another game? This is just a problem that we're experiencing right now on the free-to-play market. Who among you here has ever played a mobile game? Okay, that's a lot. All right. And now who among you here has ever paid in your mobile game? Okay, great. All right, thank you for for doing that. Right. Right now, there's only about 1.8 to 2.5% of any players within the game paying in the game. And the rest, they do not pay. And that's completely fine. That's how the business model works. How it works is, if you have a mobile game, you do expect about 1.8% of your players to pay and the rest not to pay. And that's okay. However, what is not okay is that for you to be able to reach that sweet spot, you need a huge amount of users. And as a game developer, for example, it's really hard to gain that much traction, to gain that much amount of users in your game. You need millions or hundreds of thousands of players just for you to break even when you're making the game. And this is somewhat changing right now with how blockchain gaming is developing itself. For example, in the App Store and the Google Play Store, only 1% of the publisher make 94% of the money. Meaning to say that these 1%, we're looking at the big gaming companies, those that have marketing budget, those that can purchase users at any time, right? The rest of the mid-scale to small-scale developers are not able to do that, but they're scrambling around to split the remaining 6%. And we somewhat want to bring the value back to the other game developers who are trying to bring their games out in the market. So what I'm trying to say here is that free-to-play games is somewhat oppressive. It's oppressive because developers with the most marketing budget benefits the most. And I know that when I was talking to Anna and a couple of people here at Slush, they were saying there are words that we're not supposed to be mentioning as much, but I think I already mentioned blockchain 3 times or 2 times. And I'll mention it again, right? We want to kind of break the rules a little bit here. But blockchain, in a way, is a way to move forward for games to really find a way for them to somewhat become profitable again or competitive again in a market where free-to-play gaming is very imbalanced. So what the blockchain does is introduce something which we call an item-first economy. What I mean is that in the past, we have a premium game, which you pay for $1 or $2, and then you play it. And then when free-to-play games happened, that's where people started really appreciating, or at least paying every time there's a new content happening. So game developers realized and learned how to create games that are walled in terms of payment, create games that are, in a way, a service. So it's a continuous development, continuous updates on the games that we are playing. If you look at your games, every other week or every other month, for example, there's always new updates happening. They add new content. And that's because that's the lifeline of free-to-play games. So on the blockchain, we now have what we call an item-first economy. So what do I mean by an item-first economy? In the past, when you make or when you play a game, the games and the items are bundled together. So if you look at World of Warcraft, for example, all of those items within World of Warcraft is only playable within World of Warcraft, right? And it hasn't happened in the past yet where one item can be playable from one game to another. In the blockchain space, that is a possibility. Because what we're trying to essentially do here is to separate the games and to separate the items at the same time. So as a player, there is real item ownership. Because the moment I buy an item in a game and I decide, all right, maybe I'm not interested in playing the game anymore. Maybe I'm over this game. All I need to do is to pull out these items, trade it, sell it, or do whatever I want with it, and then make money from it, and then move to another game and buy and sell another set of items. It is also possible for these items to be playable in just 2 or 3 other different games that I want to play in. And last one is, it's backed by smart contract. So in the past, when we're doing item trading for World of Warcraft, for example, if I meet somebody online in the city of Stormwind, for example, and I decide that, hey, I want to buy some of your items, we literally can do that. That is possible. However, that person can just literally call PayPal or MasterCard or Visa and say, hey, my son or my daughter purchased $100 worth of these items from somewhere, and I want to charge back. And they can easily charge it back, because who would believe that you've actually met in a virtual fantasy world and did trading from there? That's really not something that we have a protection for at this point. So with smart contract, it allows us to make sure that there is no fraud, that the transaction happens the way it should happen. So what it does right now literally is that games and items on the blockchain can be separated. There will be 2 sets of people in the gaming industry, or at the very least in the gaming development front. One that creates game environments, and one that creates game items. And for this to really happen, we may want to look back into things that are already in existence in a centralized environment, which I will discuss in a bit. So has anybody heard of non-fungible tokens? Nobody? All right, great. So has anybody seen any of these pictures right here? Or at least encountered it at some point in your life? Perfect, great. So which one? The cat. There you go. So CryptoKitties. So the reason why I was inspired to start my company Alto is a couple of years, well, not years, that makes it sound like it's a long time ago. A couple of months ago, last year, 2017, October, I heard of my friends saying, hey Chase, you should start playing CryptoKitties. This cat right over here. And I was like, all right, what is this game all about? So I went to their website, I took a look at it, and I realized that it's probably one of those games that I don't want to play ever again, because it doesn't do anything. So essentially what it does is, you buy the cats, you buy another cat, so it makes it 2. You breed them, and you create another cat out of it. But the thing is, where's the fun in that? So it's a breeding game. Basically, you breed cats, you look for traits until you could go ahead and find a rare one, or breed a very limited edition cat right there. So I decided to not play it. But one thing I didn't realize is that this cat right here does not belong into any game. It doesn't live in a specific server of sorts that a game owns. It's actually on the blockchain. It's actually stored in my wallet. It's basically money or cryptocurrency in the form of a cat. And it's playable. It's not just a coin. It's something that I can play at some point in the future. So I decided to revisit that and think about how the industry as a whole can benefit from an item-first approach, from a non-fungible token approach. And so a lot of people in the blockchain industry calls this as a virtual item. They call it a crypto item. They call it a non-fungible token. And if you've ever heard of Ethereum, on the Ethereum blockchain, they call it an ERC721 token. You may think of it as a game item, but it is also a virtual currency in the form of whatever it takes form of. A cat, a baseball guy, a creature of some sort that I don't know, or trading cards. Literally, you can put trading card games. If you played Magic the Gathering, if you played Hearthstone, you can put every single cards that is ever created on the blockchain, and they can be worth something. So this is just a very simple illustration of how I think blockchain and gaming looks like. Think of non-fungible tokens as your ticket to a theme park which is the blockchain. And within the blockchain, there are several different rides. There's a roller coaster, there's a Ferris wheel, there's a bump car or whatnot. Clearly, I haven't been to too much theme park. I don't know exactly what else apart from those 3 examples. But this non-fungible tokens can access any of these rides in the theme park. And so now, people are actually building different types of games surrounding a specific blockchain. Ethereum is one of them. Ethereum has a lot of games that are being built around it, but it's not yet fully accessible to everybody. It's not yet mainstream. So the initial audience of blockchain games right now are mostly game developers, cryptocurrency traders, or those that understand cryptocurrency as a whole. But this has the potential, and gaming has the potential to take games and blockchain to the mainstream. So I coughed out an example of how to just visualize the whole thing. So what you see at the back right now is a crypto kitty, you see a crypto zombie. All of these are game items. And there's another cat right there, and a potion, for example. All of this can coexist in one game. And if you are the owner of this item, you can play it in an action game like this. This is Super Mario, by the way. But as a form of visualization, an action game can host many different kinds of crypto items, or non-fungible token as we call it. What you own here are the items. The game, you can access that. However they want to monetize from their games, game developers can let us know exactly how you can enter their game. But your non-fungible token, your items, that's your access to that game if they accept it. Now, let's say you own all of these items right here, and you want to play another game. You can actually do that by moving and looking for another game that accepts that items. So this game, a card game at the back, for example, can still accept and utilize the same item sets that you own. And that's a possibility that we see in the future, particularly with blockchain and gaming. So, as an example, we have what we call an initial item offering. So what we did was, in our platform, for example, we allow game developers to create their own items. These items, as a game developer, I could go ahead and pre-sell to anyone who wants to buy these items, more like a Kickstarter, except that I'm selling items or non-fungible tokens. The only difference with the Kickstarter is when you're doing Kickstarter, you receive a t-shirt or you receive a token of appreciation for backing the project. But game developers are constantly doing this now where they're pre-selling their game items on the blockchain. And then once they reach their target amount of money, they go ahead and build the game that accepts the following items. As an example, yesterday we announced the winners of our Alto Crypto Game Challenge. So what we did was, on your right, we created a series of game items, fantasy-themed game items on the blockchain, on the mainnet of the Ethereum blockchain. It's very generic. There's nothing to it other than the image and the code. And we ask game developers, can you include these items into the games that you are making? So we reached to a point where we had 5 finalists. They created different games. One is a card game. One is a Pokemon Go type of game. One is what you see on my right here. This is like a Pokemon Go game. And that one is like an RPG game. So these are several different games, but they're accepting all of these items on my right. Goes to show that it is possible. It is possible for us to be able to actually interoperate items on the blockchain. All we just really need to do is to make sure that adoption is there, that game developers are on board for them to be able to create a game environment and a series of game items that allows us to put them all together. Oh, by the way, this one was the winner. Has anybody here watched the movie Ready Player One? Great. A couple of us. But people are saying that it is a possibility, and I agree. I agree that it is a possibility because at some point in the future, there will be a group of people or groups of people that are going to make money on virtual economies. Games is actually one of those. It's one of those economies where it's very virtual, but it can seamlessly transition onto the physical world. All items that you own, all things that you do in the game, you can actually monetize that from outside as well. And it is already happening. At the moment, there are games on a centralized server, not on the blockchain, that are doing that. If you've seen any of these games, or if you haven't heard any of these games, and you're interested in learning a little bit more, these are games that has been released for a couple of years ago that has a huge virtual economy within it. For example, Entropia Online, this game, 7 or 6 out of the most 10 expensive virtual items that has been sold in the market comes from this game. Second Life, for example, is a game where it allows you to build your own character and live within the environment of Second Life, and EVE Online as well. All of these are games that are actually making it big in the market already. So as a last note, before I end this, I would say that games and gamers will take blockchain to the mainstream. I think we have really good game developers who's able to create amazing user experience, perfect UI or great UI for anybody to transition from the traditional way of doing things up until doing things on the blockchain. So if you guys have any questions, please feel free to look for me backstage or around the area. That's it for me today, and hope you at least learned something about gaming and cryptocurrency and the blockchain. Thank you.